Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Pashyatadi Shatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gautase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kant Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Anything fixed now?
Can't see the Zoom link in the
Send the Zoom link now for today. Devotees are joining in. Go to the YouTube over there. Have you started streaming? Share thing. And who's asking for the can't see? Just share the screenshot yesterday which we had shared. All right. And you can share the Zoom link on the YouTube stream. Hare Krishna. So we are on Canto 4, chapter number 23. Pṛthu Mahārāja goes back home, back to Godhead. And now we are on the set of verses where Pṛthu Mahārāja have already, in one way, have quit his body. And now what did Mother Archi do, or Queen Archi do, is what we have been discussing. So we read up till 25th verse, and we'll continue reading from there. So in 22nd word, it was mentioned about Saha Gamana, which means she circumambulated the fire, and while thinking of her husband, she entered into the flame. Like that. Text number 25. Devya uchuhu ahoyam vadurdhanya ya chaivam bhubujam patim sarvatmana patim bheje yagnesham shri vadhuriva. Translation. So yeah, we were discussing yesterday. Now Archi have also quit her body, and the Devtas were watching the whole thing. And we were discussing while concluding the discussion yesterday. I mean, so many people die in this earth. What's the big deal? But here, Devtas and their wives are having a discussion. On the wives of the Devtas begin to speak. Devaya Ichu. So the demigoddesses begin to speak. The wives of the Devtas said, "All glories to Queen Archi. We can see that this queen of the great king Pṛthu, the emperor of all the kings of the world, has served her husband with mind, speech, and body, exactly as the goddess of fortune serves the supreme personality of Godhead, Yagna Ish or Vishnu." Beautiful puppet. Reading from the third line, Prabhupada talking about, or emphasizing on, good husband-wife relationship, how it is important. In fact, rest of the canto now would be discussed about more or less of husband and wife relationship. Prabhupada writes in the third line, we can observe that even in the history of this world, when Lord Krishna, the Supreme Vishnu, was ruling over Dwarka, Queen Rukmini was also who was the chief of all Krishna's queens, used to serve Lord Krishna personally in spite of having many hundreds of maidservants to assist her. Similarly, the goddess of fortune in the Vaikuntha planets also serves Narayana personally. Although there are many thousands of devotees prepared to serve the Lord, this practice is also followed by the wives of the Devatas. And in days past, the wives of men also followed the same principle. In the Vedic civilization, the husband and wife were not separated by such man-made laws as divorce. We should understand the necessity for maintaining family life in human society and should thus abolish artificial law known as divorce. The husband and wife should live in Krishna consciousness and follow in the footsteps of Lakshmi, Narayana, or Krishna, Rukmini. In this way, peace and harmony can be possible within this world. So now for rest of the canto, we're going to read about the story of King Puranjana. The story of the city of 9 gates. After this chapter, Maitreya Muni will continue the discussion and then he'll speak about the descendants of Pṛthu Mahārāja. And that one of the prominent descendant is Bharishat. And Bharishat had a son by the name of, oh no, not Bharishat. There are different names. So Prachini Bharishat is the grandson like that in the lineage, coming from Dhruva Maharaj to Pṛthu Mahārāja, and that Prachini Bharishat. And the story of Prachini Bharishat begins. We'll talk about that. And there, this again, the concept of husband and wife relationship is mentioned. In Vedic culture, how this relationship is seen is more of a companion trying to assist each other. Both man and woman are unique in their nature, and the way Vedic culture defines or designs it is to complement each other, to support each other in such a way they make a perfect combination. So man has certain weaknesses, certain strength. A woman have certain strength and certain weaknesses, but they are entirely opposite to each other in terms of their strength and weakness. So when they come together, they complement, and that's how it makes a wonderful system. But for that to happen, there has to be a certain level of understanding and culture and etiquette. Like that, the Vedic culture would work out. So that is what the wives of Devatas are glorifying Queen Archi for being loyal to her husband. Text number 26. The wives of the Devatas continued, just see how this chaste lady Archi, by dint of her inconceivable pious activities, is still following her husband upward as far as we can see. Text number 27. In this material world, every human being has a short span of life. But those who engage in devotional service go back home, back to Godhead, for they're actually on the path of liberation. For such persons, there is nothing which is not available. So Prabhupada writes in the previous verse purport, so now Pṛthu Mahārāja was going back to Godhead. He performed tapasya, and Queen Archi, just because of her devotion and loyalty, she also get to the same position. Second paragraph or text number 26 purport. The ladies in the higher planetary system were capable of seeing both downward and upward. When they looked down, they could see that the body of Pṛthu Mahārāja was being burnt. His wife Archi was entering into the fire. And when they looked upward, they could see how they were being carried in 2 airplanes in the Vaikuntha Lokas. Now, this is the homework. You guys have to think it out. Are the Vaikuntha planes are too small, only single-seater? In case of Dhruva Maharaj, also the same thing in the 4th canto. Suniti went in another airplane. Dhruva Maharaj went in another airplane. That's a question to ask. If they're husband and wife, can't be a 2-seater? At least they both could have sat together. Or does it mean something else? Or does it mean... I would car park this. I wanted to think. It's an interesting point here. Huh? All of this is possible simply by durvibhavyena karmana, inconceivable activity. Pṛthu Mahārāja was a pure devotee and his wife, Queen Archi, simply followed her husband. Thus, they can both be considered pure devotees and thus they are capable of performing inconceivable activities. So, Prabhupada, few lines below writes, indeed, ordinary man cannot even take to the devotion service of the Lord, nor can ordinary women maintain such vows of chastity and follow their husbands in all respects. Woman does not need to attain high qualification, but if she simply follows in the footsteps of her husband, who must be devotee, then both husband and wife attain liberation and are promoted to the Vaikuntha Lokas. This is evidenced by the inconceivable activities of Pṛthu Mahārāja and his wife. You can say this is a way of godly life. You know, the advanced civilization, Prabhupada will often mention, Aryan civilization. So this is the way of life of Aryan civilization, where both an husband and wife are highly qualified. Husband is qualified to perform, his rules and regulations, austerities and whatnot, uphold dharma, and wife is able to uphold her dharma, chastity, loyalty, and devotion. And Prabhupada writes here, it is not possible for ordinary men and women to do it. Okay, text number 27, we did that. Text number 28. Savanchito batatma drug krachrena mahata bhuvi labdva pavargayam manushyam vishyayeshu visachyate. Any person who engages himself within this material world in performing activities that necessitate great struggle, and who after obtaining a human form of life, which is a chance to attain liberation from miseries, undertake the difficult task of fruitive activities, must be considered to be cheated and envious of his own self. So here the goddesses are speaking about all this thing. So despite after getting a human form of life, which only has one purpose, to set us free from the cycle of birth and death, yet a living entity utilizes the human form of life for fulfilling sense gratification, engaging in fruitive activities, and getting into a great struggle. It is said, they say, such a person must be considered to be cheated and envious of his own self. Any reflection? Scoop in. For all of you, tomorrow on, we're going to keep some time limit. If you come late by certain thing, you go and hear online. Not that you can just turn up any point of time. तुम 8:30 तक आना जाना लगाए रखते हो. Okay, so what I was saying, any thoughts on this? What they're saying? The human form of life, the only goal, the purpose is liberation. But unfortunately, the man being cheated, he utilizes that form of life for the purpose of sense gratification, thus engages in fruitive actions. They're actions, but the fruitive actions. Fruitive action means, what's in for me? That's the reason it said fruitive. Probably when you use the word fruitive, which means the very first question is always asked, what's in for me? What will I get? What will I get? So it's considered to be cheated and envious of his own self. So they are saying all these karmis who are working outside, hard, so hard, so hard. They're envious of themselves. Kindly proof. Huh? Yeah, Mike. They're envious.
Actually, the living entity is the soul, and it is Sachidananda, meaning it is completely blissful. However, when we are working for material pleasures, we actually are missing on the real thing, and that's the reason why we are cheated, because we are supposed to do that.
Envious of the self. These people, they're envious of themselves. Envious of the self is the point. Ishopanishad says, Asurinamate loka andhena tamasavrataha ye kecha tamste pretyapi gachanti ye kecha atmahanojanaha. So the killer of the soul, Ishopanishad says, Asurinamate loka andhena tamasavrata, the killer of the soul, tamste pretyapi gachanti. Pretya, when you give it the body called pret, Bigachanti, where do they go? They go to the place which is known to be Asurinamate Loka, this place of Asuras. Andhena Tamasavrata, full of darkness and ignorance. And such an individual is said to be a killer of the soul. Killer of the soul. I remember once somebody asking me, so Bhagavad Gita Krishna says soul cannot be killed. Then now Upanishad is saying killer of the soul. So here it is said envious of the self. Any thoughts? How envious of the self? It's a matter of change of perspective. It's a different perspective altogether. Gautam, you want to add something? Okay. It's a matter of different perspective. So let's take a little bit reflect on the perspective of the these demigoddesses. So when they're looking down, they're looking at the human society, they're regretting. The point is, they're not able to see, as they're speaking to all of us, they're not able to see this life is temporary. The body that you have got is temporary. Ahani ahani bhutani gacchanta yamalayam sheshastharam achanti kim ashare athaparam. Yudhishthira Maharaj said like this. It is so astonishing. Every moment, people are dying all over the place, but this living entity thinks nothing will happen to me. And he, out of ignorance and illusion, continues to live his life as if he or she has got a very long life. And they are saying the human form of life out of 8.4 million species. The first problem is they don't understand all of the living forms. They understand, the basic fundamental idea is missing. This is spirit soul. That's the spark which is keeping this body active. So because of that lack of knowledge, this living entity who's got this human form body, he thinks that has been gifted to him. Or I don't think so, they think they're gifted to him, is meant for the enjoyment. And thus being dictated by mind and senses, cheated by the mind and senses are not, cheated by their mind, they lose their self-interest. Why envious? This living entity is envious of himself. Envious means destruction. And he's bringing about a destruction upon himself rather than utilizing the body, human form of body which has been given to him to elevate himself, to escape or quit the cycle of birth and death. He is further entangling himself into the laws of karma. So now if you see from that perspective, you'll call the living entity to be envious? Because he is bringing about self-destruction. Who will bring about destruction? One who is envious. So he's bringing self-destruction, therefore, he is envious of the self. And who all this include? Karmi, Jnani, Yogis, they all come under that category. Because Karmis want sense gratification, Jnanis want liberation, Yogis want Ashtasiddhi. It's all for eye and mind. Keeps them within this creation, like that. That's the point which is being mentioned here. Apavargayam. Prabhupada writes at the end of the purport. Srila Jiva Goswami advises that in this human form of life, one's only aim should be to go back home, back to Godhead. The word savanchitaha indicate that once a person has obtained the human form of life, is actually cheated if he does not make preparations to go back home, back to Godhead. The position of all non-devotees who are not interested in going back home, back to Godhead is very much lamentable. For the human form of life is meant for executing devotional service and nothing else. And why cheated? Prahlad Maharaj says, Mat na Krishne parato svato va mito vipatyet. What is that? Last line, Punha punaschavita charvananam. Matir na Krishne, his mati never takes shelter of the lotus feet of Lord. Matir na Krishne parato svato va. Neither from his experience, others tell him, even not that, mito abhipadyet, not through the cumulative effect. This person just does not understand. Why? Adhanta gobhir. Adhanta gobhir. That's the third line where he says, because graha vratanam, because he's so much caught up into the household affairs, eye and mind, adhanta gobhir. Adhanta gobhir vishitam tamishram. Punha punascharvita charvananam. Why cheated? Punascharvita charvananam. What he's trying to enjoy in this life, he has already tried it many times. And every time he only had one experience, frustration. What things to be giving you pleasure now, we have already tasted all that. There's nothing new to be tasted in this world. And we have always been frustrated. If we were not frustrated, we would not have got this life. And therefore Shastra says living entities cheated if it's engaging in sense gratification, because the idea of sense gratification is bas thoda sa kar leta hu. Bas how many of you have this experience? How the mind cheats us? Only this time and the last time. I will not do it again. Bas is baar meri sun le tu. Bas is baar kar le. No need for the next time. Don't think about the future. Just this time and your needs will be taken care. How many of you have heard this kind of argument from your mind? And this argument your mind gives every day. Dehayato Vishyan Pumsa Sangaste Supajayate, that the cycle of fall down, like that. That's the reason it is said to be cheated. Cheated. So text number 29. Maitrivacha stuvatashu amarastrishu patilokam gata vadhu yam vatma vidam dhuryo vanya prapachyutashraya. The great sage Maitreya continues speaking, my dear Vidura, when the wives of the denizens of the heavens were thus talking amongst themselves, Queen Archi reached the planet which her husband, Pṛthu Mahārāja, the topmost self-realized soul, had attained. Very nice puppet. You can mark it for yourself. Glories of husband-wife relationship. कभी भी tension आए, friction आए, तो साथ में बैठ के पढ़िए. So you realign to this Grahastha ashram. Okay. So let's take. Anyone would like to read online? We can have two devotees, if they wish, they can read. Otherwise, we can have, in the meantime, we can have somebody from here read it out.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. This is Ananga
Hare Krishna.
Madhuri. Right?
Ananga Madhuri.
Yes. Yeah. Mother, go ahead. Please read the paragraph.
According to Vedic scriptures, a woman who dies with her husband or enters into the fire in which her husband is burning also enters the same planet her husband attains. In this material world, there is a planet known as Patiloka, just as there is a planet known as Pitriloka. But in this verse, the word Patiloka does not refer to any planet within this material universe. For Pṛthu Mahārāja, being topmost amongst self-realized souls, certainly returned home, back to Godhead, and attained one of the Vaikuntha planets. Queen Archi also entered Patiloka, but this planet is not in the material universe, for she actually entered the planet which her husband attained. In the material world also, when a woman dies with her husband, she again unites with him in the next birth. Similarly, Maharaj Pṛthu and Queen Archi united in the Vaikuntha planets. In the Vaikuntha planets, there are husbands and wives, but there is no question of their giving birth to children or having sex life. In the Vaikuntha planets, both husbands and wives are extraordinarily beautiful and they are attracted to one another, but they do not enjoy sex life. Indeed, they consider sex not to be very relishable because both husband and wife are always absorbed in Krishna consciousness and in glorifying and chanting the glories of the Lord.
Thank you, Mother. Tejasvu, read the next paragraph.
According to Bhakti Vinod Thakur also, a husband and wife can turn the home into a place as good as Vaikuntha, even while in this material world. Being absorbed in Krishna consciousness, even in this world, husband and wife can live in Vaikuntha simply by installing the deity of the Lord within the home and serving the deity according to the directions of the Shastras. In this way, they will never feel the sex urge. That is the test of advancement in devotional service. One who is advanced in devotional service is never attracted by sex life.
Yeah, all right, Tejasvu. So that's, thank you, Tejasvu. So that's the whole focus here, rest of the purport. Same thing. If we keep spiritual practice or if we absorb in Krishna consciousness, we can rise above the mundane attractions. That's primarily Prabhupada is focusing. All right, from text number 30 to text number 39, which marks the conclusion of this chapter, and also the story of Pṛthu Mahārāja, which was spread across several chapters. Now Maitreya Muni will begin to offer benedictions. Those who have heard attentively and those who have not missed any of the lecture, so they'll get this benefits. I'm not saying, Maitreya Muni says so. Text number 30, I'll just read out those benedictions. Maitreya continued, the greatest of all devotees, Mahārāja Pṛthu, was very powerful, and his character was liberal, magnificent, and magnanimous. Thus I have described him to you as far as possible. 31. Any person who describes the great characteristics of King Pṛthu with faith and determination, whether he reads or hears of them himself or helps others to hear of them, is certain to attain the very planet which Mahārāja Pṛthu attained. Haribol! अरे खुश हो जाओ तुम लोग. कुछ लोग डाउटफुल हैं, हमने पूरा करा नहीं करा. तो यहाँ पे हमारी साउंड टीम को भी बेनिफिट मिलेगा. Helps others to hear of them. That is also given. Organizers also. In other words, such a person also returns home to the Vaikuntha planets, back to Godhead. Text number 32. If one hears of the characteristics of Pṛthu Mahārāja and is a Brahmana, he becomes perfectly qualified with Brahmanical powers. If he is a Kshatriya, he becomes the king of the whole world. If he is a Vaishya, he becomes the master of other Vaishyas and many animals. And if he is a Shudra, he becomes the topmost devotee. Now, any surprise here? What is the surprise? So, surprise is Shudra becomes the topmost devotee. So, what's the problem? So, what is the catch? What is so surprising here?
Actually, Shudra means they don't have intelligence. So they get the intelligence and to understand spiritual knowledge and become a devotee. That must be the meaning.
So in third canto, when the subject matter of this four varnas were being created, the Prabhupada mentions very beautiful point. Among all the four, the best candidate is the Shudra, because they have an innate nature of obedience and servitude, which is the topmost qualification to become a devotee. For a Brahmana, he is independent, and therefore all the blame game goes to Brahmana, even in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes or no? Not only the seculars are crying, left wing versus right wing, even in Bhagavatam. And all this different Mayavad and all those varieties have come because of independently thoughtful or whatnot. Kshatriyas, they fight for power and whatnot. Vaishyas, they get corrupted because of money. But Shudras, where they're supposed to follow. So in that way it is said. So we have got an understanding of Shudra from the British perspective. Shudras are the lowest class, but that's not how Prabhupada writes ever in this thing. Yeah, correct. In one way, Shudra, as Krishna also says in the 9th chapter, Vaishya, Shudras, three things are mentioned. So they are prone to bad association. They can be easily carried away. That's the point. Not that whole Shudra class is bad. They are prone to get misdirected. That's the point here. As much as a woman is prone, Vaishya can also get corrupted with money. Text number 33. It does not matter whether one is a man or woman. Anyone who with great respect hears this narration of Pṛthu Mahārāja will become the father of many children if he is without children, and will become the richest of men if he is without money. The question is, Srimad Bhagavatam is a book of love. Srimad Bhagavatam is dharmo prajita kaitvatra paramo nirmasaranam sadam. It rejects all kind of dharma. Only one dharma. Man manam bhava madvakto madhyaji maam namaskuru. Which means the full surrender to the Lord. So why in that grantha a materialistic boon has been given? If someone is without children, he'll become father of many children. And maybe in the puppet somewhere it mentioned precisely boys. And if he's not rich, will become the richest man if he's without money. Why Maitreya Muni is giving a materialistic blessing? Any thoughts? Yes, go ahead.
We sometimes in our preaching also, we say that whenever we have new audience, we say that when you do meditation, mantra meditation specifically, you will get healthy body and all those things. But that is not the aim. That is the
No, this is
benefit.
Maitreya Muni speaking to Vidura. There is no public audience.
So
kya?
no,
This is a private conversation
but the
between Vidura.
reader of this Bhagavatam or this story.
Arey, Maitreya Muni is not speaking because he's thinking future Vyasdev will write and all that. Yeah, you're too much interpolating. There's a conversation between whom this conversation happening.
Maitreya Muni and Viduruji.
This is not between Sutta Goswami and Shaunakadi Rishi. And how many audience are there? One audience and one speaker. Then it doesn't make. Sutta Goswami is speaking to Shaunakadi, then we can say that. Parikshit, Sukdev Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, we can say that. Not that old stick works everywhere. That is not the formula here.
Eventually it will to the reader, to bring the
You
reader.
can send a WhatsApp to Matrimony to reconfirm your idea. Eventually and all that. Okay, let's take a look at the purport. Materialistic persons are very fond of money, and great families worship different devtas to attain their desires, especially goddess Durga, Shiva and Brahma, etc. Shri means beauty, Aishwarya means riches, Praja means children, Ipsavaha means desiring. As described in second kind of Shiva, one has to worship various devatas for benedictions. However, here it is indicated that simply by hearing of the life and character of Pṛthu Mahārāja, one can have both riches and children in enormous quantities. One simply has to understand the history, the life and activities of Pṛthu Mahārāja. It is advised that one read them at least 3 times. Those who are materially afflicted will so benefit by hearing of the Supreme Lord and his devotees that they need not go to any devta. The word supraja tamaha is very significant in this verse, for one may have many children but may not have any qualified children. Here, however, it is stated praja tamaha, that all the children thus attained would be qualified in education, wealth, beauty, strength, and everything complete. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, I'm not reminding of right now, but he says, why it is mentioned like this over here? ठीक है. Okay. Text number 34. Also, one who hears this narration 3 times will become very reputable if he is not recognized in society, which means your social media handles will become viral. That's what today it means to be. And he'll become a great scholar if he is illiterate. In other words, hearing of the narrations of Pṛthu Mahārāja is so auspicious that it drives away all the bad luck. How many of you regretting missed the lectures? अरे ये पहले से पता होना चाहिए था आपको अगली बार से blessings पहले बतानी चाहिए ताकि we can just do the needful thing. Purpose. In the material world, everyone wants some profit, some adoration, some reputation. By associating different ways as Supreme Personality God and His devotees, one can very easily become opulent in every aspect. Even if one is not known or recognized by society, he becomes very famous and important and takes to devotional service and preaching. As far as education is concerned, one can become recognized in society as a great learned scholar simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. This material world is full of dangers, but a devotee has no fear like this. Since hearing about Pṛthu Mahārāja is one of the items of devotion service, naturally hearing about him brings all good fortune. That's the angle that Prabhupada is saying. Text number 35. By hearing the narration of Pṛthu Mahārāja, one can become great, increase his duration of life, gain promotion to the heavenly planets, counteract the contaminations of this age of Kali. In addition, one can promote the causes of religion, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Therefore, from all sides, it is advisable for a materialistic person who is interested in such things to read and hear the narrations of the life and characters of Pṛthu Mahārāja. Text number 36. If a king who is desirous of attaining victory and ruling power chants the narration of Pṛthu Mahārāja 3 times before going forth on his chariot, all subordinate kings will automatically render all kinds of taxes unto him, as they rendered them unto Mahārāja Pṛthu simply upon his order. Text number 37. We are concluding now this chapter. A pure devotee is executing the different processes of devotional service may be situated in the transcendental position, being completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But even he, while discharging devotional service, must hear, read, and induce others to hear about the character and life of Pṛthu Mahārāja. So Prabhupada says, for neophytes, it's very important to hear the activities. Otherwise, they're very eager to hear about Ras Leela chapters. Text number 38. The great sage Maitreya continues, My dear Vidura, I have as far as possible spoken the narrations of Pṛthu Mahārāja, which enrich one's devotional attitude. Whoever takes advantage of these benefits also goes back home, back to Godhead like Mahārāja Pṛthu. So this is one of the repeated theme we see in Bhagavatam. After a great narration, there generally blessings are offered to encourage. And of course, hearing about these pastimes, about these great personalities, it definitely purifies our consciousness and it sets a goal and aspiration, what we should be looking forward to. And the last, Anudinam idamadarena sharanvan Pṛthu charitam pratayan vimukta sangaha Bhagavati bhavasindhu potapade Sacha nipunam labate ratim manushyaha. So here his blessing is offered, one with great reverence. Anudinam idam adar, with great reverence and sincerity, Shravan, who hears every day, recites to each chants the glories of Pṛthu Mahārāja, will develop unflinching faith and attraction for the Lord. The Lord's lotus feet are the boat by which one can cross the ocean of nice signs. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 4th canto, 23rd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavat, entitled Mahārāja Pṛthu's Going Back Home. This is one of the very, very important section of Srimad Bhagavatam. Many wonderful conflict resolution, many things we learn from Pṛthu Mahārāja. How to rule, how to resolve conflict between Indra and Pṛthu Mahārāja, how to lead, how to live a grahastha life, how to be a leader, how to care for others. The whole life was mentioned from his childhood up to his departure. How to face the departure, how to prepare for the final exam. So if you look at it in whole sum and substance, everything, everyone, every character can identify with some part of his life and draw inspiration. That's the reason this storyline has been so much glorified. All right. So text, chapter number 24. I'll set the introduction here. So it's titled as Chanting the Song Sung by Lord Shiva. Chapter 24 is also Rudra Gita. So we had Bhagavad Gita. Now we're going to read about Rudra Gita. But we'll not read Rudra Gita right now. I will just set an introduction because how the conversation happened between Maitri Muni and Vidurji is like he introduces the lineage of Pṛthu Mahārāja, and then he says that how Prachani Varishad had sons like Prachetas, and they met Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva spoke to them. So Vidurji becomes inquisitive, and he asks, what did Lord Shiva spoke? And then he began to answer what Lord Shiva spoke. That becomes Rudra Gita. That's where 24th chapter goes. And 25th chapter also slightly opens with that. And then, interestingly, before we could have further discussion of what Prachetas did after Rudra Gita was completed, Maitri Muni changes the course of discussion. And he says how Narad Muni once came back to meet Prachani Varishad. Why Narad Muni came back to meet Prachani Varishad? The reason is Prachani Varishad comes under the lineage of Dhruva Mahārāja. Dhruva Mahārāja was whose disciple? Narad Muni. So कहते हैं ना गुरु जन्म जन्मांतर केवल आपके नहीं आपके कुलों का भी ध्यान रखते हैं. So Narad Muni was really keen. Can you open the window please? Was really keen to help Prachani Varishad, who was, despite being born in such a great lineage of Dhruva Mahārāja, was performing sacrifices, but only for the sake of artha, kama, dharma, artha, kama, for his fulfillment desire. So Narad Muni wanted to come and speak to him and also give him right instructions. So then starts from chapter number 25, starts instructions of Narad Muni to Prachani Varishad, who is also known as Prachani Bhari, Varishad, etc., with different names. And then comes a very interesting discussion about the story of King Puranjana. A very beautiful allegorical presentation, which every audience can hear, is about how the material life is designed. And then after concluding the story and how Prachani Varishad then gets liberated from the ideas of fruitive activities, then in the last two chapters, 30 and 31, again Maitri Muni comes back to the story of Prachetas. He briefly talks about the stories of Prachetas. Nonetheless, the story of Prachetas is again continuing the 6th chapter, 6th canto, chapter number 2 or 3. 6th canto, right? Yeah, not chapter. 6th canto begins with Ajamil's story, right? The first 3 chapters. So in the 4th or the 5th chapter, so this Prachetas, when they completed their tapasya, Lord Vishnu gave darshan. All that we'll read in this canto. When all that happened, then they came out Then they got married to the daughter of the trees. I'm forgetting her name. And then they begot a son by the name of Daksha. This is Daksha, not of the fourth canto, Daksha's second birth. And then the story continues from there. Then again, Daksha and Narad Muni episode begins. Narad Muni is a constant part of Bhagavatam. You know, Narad Muni, Narad Muni, Narad Muni, like that. So let's, first 15 verses is just about the lineage. We'll just go through the lineage. And tomorrow I'm not there, so Friday we'll start with 25th chapter. And 24th chapter we'll read when we're talking about Prachetas and together. So, you know, you will be able to go. Because if I speak about Prachetas now, then again 31st chapter. So when we'll finish 29 chapters, when we'll come to 30th chapter, that time we'll read the Rudra Gita. And from there we'll go and flow with 30th chapter and 31. So you'll be able to focus on the story of Prachetas like that. Okay, so that's how the flow looks like. And this is going to be an interesting section now. So I'm just going to read quickly the first 15 translations. Or else we can have devotees read out here. Where is the mic? Yeah, only translations. This is lineage only, nothing else. Keep reading, one by one.
Hare Krishna. The great sage Maitreya continued. Vijitsava, the eldest son of Mahārāja Pṛthu, who had a reputation like his...
Vijitashva.
Vijitachva.
A के ऊपर मात्रा है, which means a. That is pronounced like a.
The eldest son Vijitachva. The eldest son of Mahārāja Pṛthu, who had a reputation like his father's, became emperor and gave his younger brothers different directions of the word to govern, for he was very affectionate towards his brothers.
Next.
Maharaj Vijitashva offered the eastern part of the world to his brother Haryaksh, the southern part to Dhumrakesh, the western part to Vrika, and the northern part to Dravina.
Formerly, Maharaj Vijitasva pleased the king of heaven Indra, and from him received the title Antardhan. His wife's name was Shikhandini, and by her he begot 3 good sons.
So when Pṛthu Maharaj was performing his 100th yajna, it is Vijitashva who chased after Indra and who wanted to punish. And therefore Indra, being pleased when the whole episode had ended, he blessed Vijitashva with that mystic power that Indra had of Antardhan. He'll appear, disappear by his will. So he gave it to Vijitashva. And since then, he got the name also as Antardhan. That's the story. Text number 4.
The 3 sons of Mahāraja Antardhana were named Pavaka, Pavamana and Suci.
Pavaman and
Shuchi. Formerly, these 3 personalities were the demigods of fire, but due to the curse of great sage Vasishta, they became the son of Mahāraja Antardhana. As such, they were as powerful as fire gods, and they attained the destination of mystic yoga power, being again situated as the demigods of fire.
So Prabhupada writes in the purports, when Devtas get cursed, they come to earthly planet and they take their birth in rich families. I'm not saying, look at the 4th line of the purport. Thus, it is to be understood when Devtas fall down, they come to earth as sons of very rich and pious families. In such families, a living entity gets an opportunity to execute Krishna consciousness. The point here is, sometimes they are cursed with a particular form. Chipkali ban jao, cockroach ban jao, baat alag hai. Yeah, they are. Like that, they get different kind of curses. Like that. So therefore don't kill a cockroach, you don't know which devta you are killing. And then if you kill a cockroach, you'll get a reaction. Because ultimately it's devta only, na? Then when he goes back, and then from top, he'll create problem for you. He'll sting you from top. So we have to be careful in terms of killing anyone. Anyways, so how, if for a second we can talk about how did we all came into this creation, just to have a little bit of historical understanding of ours. Each one of us, as Prabhupada says, at one point of time have held a position of Brahma. हमारा पतन की कहानी वहाँ से शुरू हुई है. वहाँ से पतन होते 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 इस धरती पे भी हम कभी ना कभी राजा के पुत्र रहे होंगे, और पतन होते 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 अभी 2 रोटी के लिए हमें इतना संघर्ष मारना पड़ रहा है। तो सोच लो कितने कुकर्म करे होंगे हमने। You getting the point? Just think about it deeply. You know, Prabhupada writes here, the devtas who get cursed, they come down and they take a birth in the family of rich aristocratic families. You know, हम सब वो देख चुके हैं. पुनः पुनश्च वित्तश्च वनानाम. We are speaking before. Therefore, they said cheated. You know, why? We have all done all that, and now we are again in another lifetime, another human form of life. Again, we have got an opportunity. Maybe born in a rich family, poor family, middle class family, whatever family, but we are still trying to do what we have been trying to do all these lifetimes, trying to fulfill our material desires, and thinking that this lifetime I'll definitely become the king. But you have forgotten that you already had been a king in many, many lifetimes. Okay, next.
Maharaj Antardhan had another wife named Nabashwati, and by her he was happy to beget another son named Havirdhan.
Havirdhan.
Since Maharaj Antardhan was very liberal, he did not kill Indra while the demigod was stealing his father's horse at the sacrifice.
Okay, Prabhupada writes in the Prabhupada is understood from various scriptures and Puranas the king of Indra was very expert in stealing and kidnapping. He could steal anything without being visible to the proprietor, and he could kidnap anyone's wife without being detected. Okay, this is about Indra. Okay, but don't become too much biased towards Indra. Prabhupada just presenting, we don't know which Indra here. Once Indra was responsible for misbehaving with Gautam Muni's wife, and then he also became invisible by stealing the horse of Pṛthu Maharaj. Although in human society such activities are considered abominable, the Devta Indra was not considered to be degraded by them. Although Antardhan could understand King Indra was stealing the horse, he did not kill Indra, for he knew he was very powerful. So I spoke about this point of Indra, in our Govardhan lecture. I mean, what all mistakes Indra have done, they all are still insignificant in comparison to the mistake that he did during that whole Govardhan Leela. Because nobody have ever tried to kill Brajavasis like he wanted to. And we discussed about why was he forgiven like that. So that's the point here. So had another wife named Navaswati. By her he was happy to beget another son. By the way, I was just thinking a point. So those of you who have not had the opportunity to become a king in this life, you can be happy. किसी जमाने में किसी जीवन में थे, उतने में कंटेंट रह के खुश रहो, जितना भी भगवान दे रहे हैं. Don't aspire too much. Text number 6.
Whenever Antardhara, the supreme royal power, had to exact taxes, punish his citizens, or fine them severely, he had not willing to do so. Consequently, he retired from the execution of such duties and engaged himself in the performance of different sacrifices.
Text number 7. Anyone online wants to read, they can join in. Yeah, go ahead. Quick.
Although Maharaj Antardhan was engaged in performing sacrifices, because he was a self-realized soul, he very intelligently rendered devotional service to the Lord, who eradicates all the fears of his devotees. By thus worshipping the Supreme Lord, Maharaj Antardhan, wrapped in ecstasy, attained his planet very easily.
Next, text number 8. Havirdhan, the son of Maharaj Antardhan, had a wife named Havirdhani, who gave birth to 6 sons named Barishat, Gaya, Shukla, Krishna, Satya, and Jitava. Text number 9.
The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, Havirdhan's very powerful son named Barihishit was very
So we had
expert
Pṛthu
in
Maharaj.
performing-
Pṛthu Maharaj's son was Antardhan, or what you call as Vijit Ashvaha, had a son by the name of Havirdhan, and Havirdhan had a son named as Barishat. So we are talking about that. And this Barishat was engaged in all kind of fruitive sacrifices. He was also expert in the practice of mystic yoga. By his great qualifications, he became known as Prajapati. Maharaj Parishad executed many sacrifices all over the world. He scattered kusha grass and kept the tops of the grasses pointed eastwards. So Prabhupada says what it means. This means that as soon as he finished one yajna in one place, he began performing another yajna in the immediate vicinity. So that's the point. Why was he performing so much yajna? So that he can accrue piety and he can attain heaven, and he can have, fulfill his desires in this world. Text number 11 and 12. Maharaj Parishad, henceforward known as Prachani Bhari or Bharishat, was ordered by the Supreme Devta Brahma to marry the daughter of the ocean named Shatadruti. Her body features were completely beautiful. She was very young. She was decorated with the proper ornaments, and when she came into the marriage arena and began circumambulating it, the fire god Agni became so attracted to her that he desired her company, exactly as he had formerly desired to enjoin Shuki. Okay, so now there are some interesting history, we're going to get into it. So anyway, this section I'll resume it when we catch up next time, so we do it in a proper context here. So this section which we're going to read now is going to talk about the illusions created by sexual attraction or allurements of it, and the warnings and the dangers of it. So much so, we just talked about Indra, how he had misbehaved with the wife of Gautama Rishi. Now we are reading about Agni. So somebody may hear this and might feel a little agitated or might wonder, अरे सब अच्छा अच्छा होना चाहिए था भागवत में, प्रेम भरी कहानियाँ होनी चाहिए थी, हमें किसी का प्राइवेट क्राइम को क्यों डिस्क्लोज करना है? It's a public disclosure of the criminal activities or whatever sinful activities have been done. The reason they have been brought in here is just to introduce to us the dangers and be very careful in our following the etiquettes and culture. There's always a chance of every pitfall falling into the traps of Maya. If the great Devatas can be victimized, what to speak of us? So there has to be a cultural understanding and how we deal with each other. So that will be the subject matter. Along with that, how every pleasure in this world which we aspire for is eventually tasteless, has no taste, has no value, has no meaning. It is only appears to be tasteful until we have got it. That's the nature of the mind, hallucination. It keeps creating some imaginary pleasures. I just wanted to for a second think about this and I conclude with this. Think about something recently or maybe long ago, you wanted something very much, very intensely. You were craving for it. How many of you got that? Please raise your hand. How many can think of something which you really wanted, you were craving for it? It could be as simple as, gulab jamun. Something which you really want.